And DeQuell, welcome back. What's up, dude?
DeQuell, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, fellas?
How are you?
My boy, DQ, what's up, baby?
Oh, nothing much, man. Getting ready for the holidays, that's all.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling all right. You know, I'm actually walking without the crutch right now, so I'm in the boot. So, you know, every day gets better with this Achilles. And Christmas was great. My son had a great time. All he cares about were Beyblades. I don't know if you guys know what the heck that is, but some toy that spins around.
Oh, yeah.
I had that. I bought that for my son a few years ago. I don't know what your
Can I interject myself really quick? Because I heard the conversation about.
That's a nice hat you got on.
Oh, appreciate it. You know, I'm getting ready for the Duke Mayo Bowl this evening.
Yeah, 12 o'clock.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, the whole Kevin Stefanski argument, Brad, I understand what you're saying, but I also have to side with Bull on this one. I think you keep him. I don't think he has done anything to have. Anything he's done up until this point is a fireable offense. I mean, you look at this year as a mulligan. You look at everything that he's had at quarterback. You look at all the things that – the biggest overall reason to me is just that guy right here, Deshaun Watson. Mm-hmm. This was a collective effort this was an organizational pick in terms of the head coach, GM, ownership to say, you know what, we're going to bring a guy in that we think you can work with. So just by the mere fact that Deshaun Watson is here, they're not going to blow everything up. I think what needs to happen before we get to Kevin Stefanski and him being and seeing whether or not he's the right man for the job, I think you have to look at the defensive coordinator standpoint. I think there's a pecking order. Obviously, the defense underachieved mightily this year on top of, you know, having guys off the street play linebacker and all these other different external factors. I think you got to start there. I think, without a doubt, in my opinion, Joe Woods, even though I hate to have a man lose a job, but he's not the guy for the job. He's not coaching inspiring football. He's not having his assistants do the job. So I think clean slate on the defensive side of the ball. Now when you get that fixed and you adjust it, and if things don't work out, now you have to start to work your way up the ladder and say, you know what, Kevin? You know, you keep swinging and missing. It's not working. But I don't think we're there just yet. I think right now with the defense underachieving, we're going to have to see an full offseason with Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper. They're already talking about getting together in the offseason. So, and the whole Deshaun Watson, I just think this experiment needs another year for us to make a definitive answer whether or not Kevin Stefanski.
Go ahead,
I will say this
because I want to ask DeQuell something too.
So my thing is, in my heart of hearts, do I think they get rid of Stefanski? No. For some of the reasons that you just named. But Kevin Stefanski, in my opinion, has set himself up to lose credibility. He has set himself up to give himself a more difficult time than needs to be. For me, I'm confused why you wouldn't be proactive as a head coach to get your other guys to buy in and say, look, when I say this ain't acceptable, our goal is Super Bowl. What we doing on defense is for lack of better terms, piss poor. And I don't care if you're my brother over there, if you're my cousin or my mama over there coaching. That ain't good enough. We can't do it.
You're going to fire your own mom?
Yes. A heartbeat. Bye, Mom. Bye. You're not doing the job. See, I want to win.
Thanksgiving so awkward.
I want to win at the highest levels. I don't care about nothing else.
Yes.
Ever. That's all I care about. So if you're not going to be there to get me there, I need to show my players that if you ain't in your gap, I will fire you too. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, I will get rid of you too. And so for me, when you let them sit there, in a way, ain't that really you throwing games? If you know somebody's over there and you can't win and your offense is great, ain't that like literally putting your head and saying, I'm going to imagine this isn't happening and I wait to handle it when it's more convenient?
Yeah, that's the Cleveland way. All right.
You know what? Listen, I don't disagree with anything you said. I think it's all, I've seen, you know, teams orchestrate that in a different manner. Like, for instance, when I was in with the Colts in I almost said New England, Indianapolis, Chuck Pagano. If you ever met Chuck Pagano is the nicest guy you ever meet. He doesn't allow any of his coaches to scream. And the way they constructed the coaching staff was my defensive coordinator at the time, he was a screamer. He was a guy who played in the league for 11 years. He played linebacker for 11 years, been a coordinator throughout his career. You know, he was credentialed, so all of us players gave him instant credibility. So Chuck would let him do his thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so he did his thing, and Chuck kind of delegated. I think what Kevin Stefanski needs to do, and we've talked about it before on this show, he spends so much time with the offense. I think hearing the fact that, you know what, his defense had underachieved when we all thought just by namesake on paper that this side of the ball would have been exponentially better. I think you have to be clued in to, you know what, when you go self-evaluate yourself after the season, what do I need to do better as a head coach? Well, I know for a fact as a player, if I saw my head coach in a meeting, in a position meeting room, or the room where the defensive coordinator is going over the new install, it brought a new level of sense of accountability. Yeah. I think he has. I don't know if he's not doing that. Clearly, he's not doing that, because it would raise the level from a coaching standpoint, player standpoint. I think he has to relegate his time a lot better to get through. If he's going to be the offensive play caller, you got to figure out ways to divide yourself up and make sure every side of the ball is doing what they need to do. Fair. But I think in this case, Kevin Stefanski, I get it. He has to take the brunt of the blame, and rightfully so. But if you go hire somebody who is a head coach in a sense, in a coordinating role, I think that alleviates some of the pressure that he has to spend with that side of the group. I think they gotta figure out that. I'm a little sensitive to just blowing everything up, because I went through so many head coaches, and it's so difficult to relearn a new system and a coaching philosophy, and guys get moved here and there, and it's just here we go again type of situation where it's revolving doors at the head coaching position. But I do think next year, if we're having the same conversations about this team underachieving, then it's unequivocally, in my opinion, it's time for him to get out of here.
Hey, DeQuell, let me come at you a different way on this. I want your take on it, right? Mm-hmm. So there are some organizations, in sports do this, right? They don't wait. They don't pull the trigger. When they see something that don't look right, they go make a move about it, and whether you agree with it or not, right? We have a tendency in this town to just keep waiting and talk about next year. There are some things about Kevin Stefanski that should be occurring. I know you see that they're not occurring. When does it become a problem? Because it's a problem.
I agree with you, Brad. I mean, listen, I would love to play for an organization who, if they saw some, a kink in the armor, you know what, let's make a move now before it gets worse. It sends the message to the rest of the players, the entire organization. We're about winning and winning only. If we don't think you're in that equation, then we get rid of you. We move on.
Because, DeQuell, this thing with Miles is slipping away here.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Yeah,
and it probably comes to a button head in the locker room, because Miles is probably expecting something to occur, and it's not occurring. This is the pushback you get from players in unobvious ways to the fans, the things that go on behind the locker room that they don't see. And this is what I'm reading underneath the surface.
To Brad's point and to your point, I think you were alluding to this already. It feels like the Browns need like a Wade Phillips, like that. Whatever. Like, they need a veteran defensive coordinator. Joe Woods is a young guy. They need a veteran defensive coordinator who hopefully has been a head coach, whether it's Mike Zimmer or Wade Phillips type or Brian Flores. We talked about that earlier this week. They need a guy who's going to come into that defense, who has head coaching experience, who's going to be respected by the players, and has got to be kind of a kick-ass guy, because the Browns, they don't have that killer mentality on the defense, it seems like. Right? So they need that type of guy, don't they?
That only makes sense, because if the head coach is play calling, he's spending I think you guys had Mary Kay Cabot on earlier this week, and I saw a little bit of that show, and she talked about her conversation she had with Deshaun Watson, and about is there anything that he noticed about Kevin Stefanski that he didn't necessarily already know? And her response was, Deshaun said he was surprised that the head coach spent so much time in the position groups on the offensive side of the ball. That there alone lets you know, again, you need to go hire a veteran guy, as you alluded to, Bull, that has, head coaching ability that, you can, it's like a prime time back in the day. Deion Sanders, you didn't worry about that side of the field. If you go out and get a Wade Phillips or someone to that capacity to run your defense, essentially you can do the same thing. You know what? I don't have to worry about it. He's going to take care of that defense. Obviously, you want to, put your imprint on it and be around. But for the most part, if you're play calling, you need a veteran guy that can handle that side of the ball, so you don't spread yourself thin. Yeah. But again, who is that guy? You know, Brian Flores, you mentioned this a great situation. I can think of some guys who were a guy named Billy Davis. He's a linebackers coach with the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever been around. Ray Horton is another guy that comes to mind. I know he's been with the Browns.
I remember him.
Two previous stints. He's probably one of the smartest guys I've ever been around. But here's the most important thing. He can coach personalities. Like the Myles Garretts, whoever walks in the building, he can coach a personality. And so the other guys fall in line. So that to me is the biggest caveat of it all. You can go out and get someone, but if you can't coach the big personalities, then we're wasting our time.
Hey, DeQuell, just answer, and we were talking about this earlier before you got on. You know, some coaches can't coach talent. You know that, right? The more talent they get, the worse it is for them because they feel like they're losing control because the more talented people, you know, they're spontaneous, right? And you have to sit back and ride with them. I see that out of Stefanski. I don't see him flexible enough to be able to sit there and take that, right? Because you got to sit there and take it.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's very important to identify that from a GM standpoint to say, you know what, he isn't the guy that can just galvanize everyone. But if you like what he does from an offensive standpoint, how do you pick up the slack, right? So you go out and get other guys who knows how to motivate talent, who from a position standpoint, it's no different than on the football field where you have guys at every level. Some guys lead in different by example, as opposed to standing in front and rah-rah speeching and all those type of things. So as an organization, I've always been clued into, you know what, if you don't have the guy, if you have leaders who lead by example, you need one or two guys that can lead by motivating, by getting underneath the guys behind and you know, telling them the truth. And you know what, we need you, or just you need that type of guy.
Like DeQuell Jackson. Like DeQuell Jackson.
To that point, DeQuell, like, how do you handle a situation like in a perfect world when you were on the Browns? Like you were, if not the best player on the defense, you were one or two best players on the defense the entire time you were here. So, like, we want, like, in a perfect world, it seems from an outsider's perspective, I'd want my best players to be the leaders. But Myles Garrett is obviously the best player on the Browns, but he's a different cat. Like, he doesn't seem like that rah-rah guy that's, like, screaming at everybody. And what the hell are we doing out here? I don't know. So does somebody else has to take that role? Can he develop into that, or is it just, like, is that just not who he is?
Yeah, that's not who he is. Yeah. If we hadn't seen it, if we're still talking about it at this point in his career, that's not who he is. Yeah. And quite frankly, it's very hard to be in that position because a lot of times when I was there with the Browns, and even with the Colts, guys didn't like me. They couldn't tolerate it. Yeah. You know, and they learned to love it because I was consistent. Because I was working harder than everyone else, and I demanded you work equally as hard. And so it's very hard to do that. And so to the Myles Garrett point, he's not that. And so any other guy that's in that locker room, I think Anthony Walker was a voice, a different style of leadership that could, you know, work with the linebackers in a sense, but that's what they're lacking. And it's so hard to identify someone that has the courage to say, Myles Garrett, you got to stop jumping these guys, like to hold him accountable. And I think Myles Garrett is that leader who would be willing to defer to someone else, knowing that they were a playmaker, knowing that they were consistent, knowing that they were going to work their butts off every single day, just as hard as, if not harder than him. So I think that's the caveat of it all. There's a lot of inexperience on this defense particularly, and a lot of guys that don't know each other in the last probably month of football, especially from the linebacker standpoint, who are they're picking guys up off the street.
So you've got guys that are when you talk about coaches, right? There's different styles, and it depends on what your personnel looks like. So when you look at, you brought up Deion. Deion don't be coaching. Deion be motivating, right? His staff he took to Colorado, he wouldn't got coaches around him to handle his position. His job is to motivate the group and hold them accountable, right? Can Stefanski make the swap? Because the team needs to be managed. It needs to be managed, right? It don't need to be coached by him on the offensive side. He got to manage too many things. There's too many things that he needs to manage on a daily basis here. And he has to trust that other people are going to be able to do that. Now, like Joe Woods, he can't get it done. I mean, he'd be the first one out of here, right? And in any other position that can't get it done, does he have the strength within him to make those calls and say, can't do that, gotta go? I don't care how nice you, my friend, you my cousin, I got it.
That doesn't matter. Yeah,
That's fair. I think Kevin Stefanski is doing what he thinks he does best, is calling plays. And I think everyone would agree his management could be a lot better with this entire team. And if you strip that title from him, if he goes out and gets an offensive coordinator, now what is he doing? I don't think anyone wants him to coaching and motivate. I don't think that's his strong suit. That's his strong set. But I mean, what do we have? I mean, they made a long-term investment in Deshaun Watson, so they're going to see this through at least for another year, just to see what style of offense we're going to run, because that's the whole other ballgame.
Are we sure Tito can't coach football as well?
Yeah.
I mean, the baseball's over, and then he can just come in.
Right.
DeQuell, I got a question for you about football this week. This is the first game that these Browns are going in knowing that they are statistically eliminated for certain from the playoffs. Not to bring up old stuff, but you had a few of these games where you went in knowing that you were statistically eliminated from the playoffs. How's the mentality different? And I don't think it's fair to go by you because of, what you are, but the mentality of the locker room typically of people not like you. What was it like going into a game like this? And I mean, I know that might not hold true with every team, but from your experience.
No, it's a great question because you hold your breath, because guys know they're out of playoff contention. You only have a handful or 2 games left. Mm-hmm. And guys are looking at what they're doing in the offseason right now. I'll just call a spade a spade. It's so hard from a leader standpoint, from a coach standpoint, to try to motivate these guys to go out and play within the scheme. There's going to be a lot of big plays. There's going to be a lot of missed assignments. It's just the nature of the beast, because you strain for so long, and then you finally realize, you know what? I'm just playing for my reputation. I'm playing for my name on my back. Now, front office is looking at who are the guys who's going to be able to compartmentalize going out and playing really good, solid football from an individual standpoint. I know for me personally, I had to lock in because I wasn't the fastest, tallest, strongest. I understood my situation. So for me, that was a moment for me to always stand out. But a lot of guys can't take that mentality, and it's like I said, it's going to be rough. You think we've seen some bad football out of this team. Hopefully, offensively, Deshaun Watson, he's motivated because he's trying to show a glimmer of his old self from, to justify this big contract. So there's going to be a lot of moving pieces, and it's not an easy situation to play in, be a coach or a player.
This got brought up yesterday. Me and Bull was talking about it. People looked at me crazy. They was like, hey man, you got some trade assets. The only one you got is Nick Chubb. Now I do things to do. I'm tongue in cheek about a lot of different things, but I will say this: I've heard you and Leroy and Dede and Tim and everybody say in the media, hey, $230 million. It's about getting Watson together. It's about getting him tightened up. It's about him. If you got him, you got a chance. Well, I'm looking around at some of the pieces and parts. And if you're going to have 230 and you got the Lamborghini out there, he needs some shoes. He needs some don't and no liability insurance. You need full coverage on that. You know what I'm saying? Don't not get the windows tinted and soup that thing up. And I'm looking
the rims.
at
What about the rims?
the Pirellis. We gotta get the Pirellis. You know what it is?
All the things.
All of the fixings. So I'm looking at his weapons, and I need me another piece. Yeah. Do you believe the Browns are going to put the priority on defensive tackle, which they need one in a worse way? But doggone it, if you want to see the best of Deshaun Watson, I feel you need another toy. You need for us to make it look right.
You need a toy.
A DJ Metcalf and put him with Cooper and DPJ. And now Stefanski, you can't screw that up. There ain't no possible way.
Don't put that in the air.
Throw that out there. What you think?
No, you're exactly right. If I had a choice, as much as I love beefing up the defense side of the ball, I think you have to make the investment towards your $230 million investment. I think you need a slot receiver. You need another chain mover. That third down, guy in the slot that can get open and cause, confusion for a nickelback in defense. And so I think you have to address it, because $230 million, as you said, he needs some toys. He needs great insurance, as you said. So I think they make a play. Obviously, defensive tackle is a huge priority, but you're going to have to get some weapons, some speed on that offense to help Deshaun Watson. And I think we're going to see a completely different offense next year. Give him the time in the offseason, and hopefully it helps. Nick Chubb. We don't run him into the ground, so we see the best of his years to come, and we don't run him to the ground. So it's going to be interesting to see how this draft unfolds and what this team identifies as being a weakness or how they can help themselves.
DeQuell,
I agree with you.
I'm curious. When obviously you're on the Browns, the beginning of your career, you play with one crappy quarterback after the next. You go to Indianapolis and you play with Andrew Luck, who's a great quarterback. Obviously, he retired early, but you played with him your first year. You go to the playoffs with him. He gets hurt the next year. When you're playing, the Browns have never had a great quarterback. Like Bernie Kosar was the closest thing we've had to a great quarterback. He was great, but that's 100 years ago at this point, right?
Right.
So Deshaun Watson is the best, may end up being, I think he will be, I'm going to be optimistic about it, the best quarterback in Browns franchise history, at least in my lifetime. That's what I'm expecting, because that's what he was in Houston.
Right.
When you get to play with Deshaun, what is it like as for the rest of the players to play with a Deshaun Watson, to play with an Andrew Luck, as opposed to playing with the schlubs he played with in Cleveland? Does it make everybody better at just knowing that you have the guy finally?
Hell yeah, it does. It's like you're always fed the best meal at dinner. You're never unfed. And it was a stark difference. And it took me a half a year to realize, playing with Andrew Luck and playing with all these, the other, carousel of quarterbacks in Cleveland, just how much a quarterback means to a franchise. And it's hard to really put it into word. You're never out. And I don't know how, as easy as it is for me to say that, but no matter if you're close, there was a sense of in Indianapolis that we were going to win the game, as opposed to in Cleveland, if we were close, I hate to say it, but it was like, oh, here we go again type of mentality. And it was a losing mentality. And whether it was a human nature for you to go down that route, but completely different playing with Andrew Luck, and it permeates through the entire organization. Defensively, you understand, you know what? If I get a lead, if you're Myles Garrett or someone that's a pass rusher, oh man, my sack total should go up. And, just all these type of different stats go up. I had one of my best statistical years my first year with the Colts. I had 5.5 sacks. I had never had 5.5 sacks with the Browns. Why? Because we were playing with really big leads. Yep. So, it just opens up. Listen, every defensive player I know loves it. Every offensive player obviously loves it, but it permeates throughout the entire organization, man. And it's something that, you're right, if Deshaun Watson can get back on track and show us a glimmer of his old self, next year could be dangerous. If they keep adding to his weapons and he gets on the right page and builds rapport with his offense, and David Njoku continues to ascend, this could be a dangerous football team. But you got to obviously the other side of the ball is a huge focal point in the offseason.
I love the point you made. It's like you always have a chance, right? Like earlier, Brad said something that I've seen a lot lately, where it's like, well, the Browns' window is the next 3 years because, Myles Garrett's getting old, or Nick Chubb, whatever. How many great years does he have left? But in my mind, when you have Deshaun Watson, when you have Joe Burrow, when you have Patrick Mahomes, when you have Peyton Manning of your era, Tom Brady, those quarterbacks, like my window should never be closed. The organization, has to be smart with how they spend their money and keep putting decent players around him. But there's much more margin for error. I don't like to win, to get to the Super Bowl with somebody like Jimmy Garoppolo or Baker Mayfield or somebody like that. Like the rest of the team's got to be perfect. But I don't have to be perfect around Deshaun Watson. I got to be good. I can't be terrible. But I don't have to be as good around him. Yeah, you want the key receivers, But like my window should never close if I have Deshaun Watson or one of those guys as a quarterback. That's how I look at it as a fan. Do you look at it that way?
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. You look at the conference. You got, within your conference alone, you have to be able to score points.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
In this league, and to play deep in the playoffs and hopefully win the Super Bowl. The days of a dominant defense, like the 2000 Ravens defense when they won with Joe Flacco, those days are long gone. You have to be able to play opportunistic defense at the right time, but you have to be able to score points all the time, and you have to be able to move the chain. So, yeah, I agree with it. With Deshaun, obviously, the one that everyone is a prisoner in the moment. We see this team really ascend the next 3 years. You look at the young talent because after 3 years or so, contracts come into play. Can you keep this guy? Will you be? So all these different external factors come into play. But if Deshaun Watson plays at the level that we all think he's capable of playing and can really take this team to the next level, they have the pieces on paper. If the front office does right, we can really see some really big jumps from this team, hopefully, in the next few years. But I agree with you. As long as you have a guy that's healthy, arm strength is healthy, can still chuck the ball down the field, you always have a shot.
DeQuell, I know you, before I let you go, I know you went to New York, of course. I recommended some restaurants. I'm pretty sure you didn't have a chance to go to any of them. But did you have fun? The family have a good time in New York?
Absolutely. Oh, my God. We took our son to see the Rockettes. He loved it. First time seeing the show, loved it. I fell asleep, of course. When they dim the lights and they bring out the orchestra, that was a sign for me to go to sleep, take a little quick power nap.
Rave review.
No, we had a great time, great food. New York is always very festive for the holiday season. And actually, my son, the other day, he wanted to go back. I'm like, buddy, that costs money. When you get a job, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want.
Well,
until then.
What does the most interesting man in the world do for New Year's Eve? My guess is, are you going to get on a yacht and go out to some private island and go to, some Eyes Wide Shut masquerade party?
Not this year.
No, not this year?
Not this year.
No.
Not this year. So we're doing one of our good friends. He's a chef, so we're going to do that. We're going to the 9-course meal, get fed, get full, and then we're going to a place up the street here where it's a new restaurant, but they have a live DJ. It's invite only, so it'll be a good time.
Nice.
Well, DeQuell,
gotta hear some music.
It's been awesome having you on all year. We'll look forward to having you on again next year. Not only was DeQuell a great football player and a great analyst with us, he's most importantly a great human being. We love you. Have a happy New Year. Thank you as always.
All right, DeQuell.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, DeQuell.
Hey, G,
Love you, DeQuell. See you, man.
Thank you, DeQuell.
Yeah.
Attaboy.
DeQuell Jackson, he's the man. He's the man.